This is not an art video, not really anyways. This is a video about life, but it started with art. I've been wanting to get back into art lately, but it's been a lot tougher than I thought. I've had 3 problems. The first is knowing what to draw or create, what materials to use, what my art style should be. Basically, I've been overthinking everything. I set the goal to start drawing or creating art every day instead of watching TV, but truthfully, it takes me so long just to look for inspiration. 2, I'm struggling with perfectionism, especially because I keep comparing my artistic abilities from when I was a kid to where they are now. I keep telling myself, if only I hadn't stopped, I'd be so much better now. On this channel, you've only seen art when I thought it turned out okay. I've avoided sharing the bad stuff because I feel like it's not good enough. 3, I keep comparing myself to other artists and their work. It makes me feel demotivated and it's been giving me a creative block. So what did I do? Of course I turned to YouTube. I've been watching a lot of art advice videos, and there's one piece of advice that has really stood out. Pick any subject and draw it every single day. Now, bear with me because this does apply to life. I promise I will get to that. At first, I began to overthink what to draw again, especially because I was going to draw it every single day. In the end, I got so sick of the overthinking and I picked something that I thought was interesting, not too difficult, but also fun. So I decided to draw eyes. I made a Pinterest board of eyes to draw, and then I realised that I wanted some sort of limit for myself. Drawing the same thing every day seemed way too infinite for me. So instead I set a challenge to draw 100 eyes in 10 days. So now we get to the part of this video where I share what drawing 100 eyes in 10 days taught me about life, because drawing the same thing 100 times over really does clear your head. If you commit to nothing, you'll be distracted by everything. We live in a world of distractions. Have you ever gone online to search for something, only to get lost in the internet that you forgot what you were looking for? This happens to me all of the time. I'm sure you've heard people say you have the attention span of a goldfish, but according to a scientific study, the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds, and for humans it's 8 seconds. So you don't have the attention span of a goldfish, you've got the attention span of less than a goldfish. We can definitely overcome this by cutting out distractions, but in order to cut out distractions, we need to know what we're cutting out. We need to know what we're actually doing and what we're looking for. We need some form of direction. So with drawing, I would open up my sketchbook to a blank page and I would scroll on Pinterest for ages looking for inspiration, but I had no direction. It meant that I would get distracted by anything that I saw. I would end up procrastinating and I wouldn't draw anything, which is even worse for my progress. Setting something to focus on, which was eyes for me, meant that I knew what I was looking for. It helped me to stop overthinking about all of the other options. So how can we apply this to life? Just choose something. Maybe you don't know what career path you want, or what form of exercise you want to incorporate into your life, or even what food to eat on a Tuesday night. Should I pick this or should I pick that? We're sometimes so spoilt for choice, we just end up procrastinating. So instead, just pick something so you don't get distracted by everything, and then you can reassess after. This definitely helps an overthinker like me. I just make one decision and it gives me some form of direction. It helps to clear up the path that I'm going down. Quality versus quantity. I'm sure you grew up around the belief that quality is better than quantity, right? Me too. I have always been obsessed with quality. I thought that if I wasn't going to do something right, why do it at all? But I was wrong. And I've come to believe that quantity is seriously underrated. Practicing quantity over quality does a lot of things. It leads to quality. Will obsessing over one piece of art until it's perfect make me a better artist? Probably not as much as practicing every day. Austin Kleon said, "The frequency of my work, showing up at regular intervals without worrying about the results, has actually led to better results." It helps you to find your voice within the space that you're working in. So I feel like if I was to practice drawing the same thing every day, my art style would emerge. You might notice that on YouTube I don't really have a niche, I just produce weekly videos and I try to experiment. And I'm hoping that by doing that, eventually my own niche will form and I'll get clarity. And when you start and commit to quantity, you can make it a routine. When you've got this big daunting task that you want to make perfect, it's so easy to put off. But if you break it up into something imperfect, something that you can just work on regularly in smaller bites, it's so much easier to be consistent, and I think consistency is so important. I try really hard with my YouTube videos, but I don't try to make them perfect. If I mispronounce something or something is a bit off, I still post it anyway because it's made it easier for me to be consistent. I think consistency is what allows for quality, and it is quantity, not quality, that lends itself to consistency. It makes you realise how subjective quality is. I actually learnt this through YouTube. Some of the videos that I thought were really crap and I wasn't going to post have actually been the ones that have done well. Everyone sees things differently, and when you realise that you have to let go of your perception of quality. You may think you're doing everything perfectly to impress your boss, but your boss may prefer something more chilled out. Now, there's obviously a trade-off to this because with quantity, with doing more and more and more, it can lead to burnout. Like with this YouTube channel, I initially had the goal to produce 2 videos a week based on the advice that I'd received, but I also really value slowing down, so reaching a higher quantity for me in that case just wasn't worth it. For me, quantity over quality isn't about producing lots and lots of pieces of really high quality work. It's about letting go of the outcome or the result and focusing instead of the process. I truly believe that it's in the process that we will find what we need, and that process needs to be sustainable. This can be applied to any area of our life. For anything that we want to get better at, we just need to put the reps in, even if they aren't perfect reps, and focus on that journey instead of that result. Constraints can help with our creativity. Having too little time or too little money or little resources obviously sucks, but it can also help us be more creative. If you've watched Squid Games, remember the game where they had to cut the shape out of the honeycomb? The main character had to cut out an umbrella, which seemed like an impossible task. But because he had limited resources and time, and obviously the fear that he was going to die, he was forced to get creative. If he had no time limit, he probably would have spent as long as possible to precisely cut the umbrella shape just like everyone else. But with the time limit, he found a solution. With this drawing challenge, I had 2 constraints. I had the constraint of time and I had the constraint of what to draw. And it meant that I could actually get creative with how to draw these eyes. So this is something that can be really helpful if you're feeling stuck. Maybe you're starting a business. Set a constraint for what your initial investment is. Maybe you're going traveling. Set a constraint by having a smaller travel bag. Maybe you're struggling to work from home. Set a constraint for where in the house you work. I think time is especially a good constraint because of Parkinson's law. The idea that work expands to fill the time allocated for something. So if we have a time limit, it means that we're more likely to get something done. Overcoming perfectionism. I talk about my struggles with overcoming perfectionism a lot. Perfectionism helps no one. The advice to just pick something and draw it every day really snapped me out of my bubble of overthinking and perfectionism. Basically, it's just about getting on with something. Nothing you'll ever do in life will be perfect. Nothing. Ever. But if we're constantly scared of things not being perfect, it means we don't ever start. If things had to be perfect, there would be no books, no paintings, no albums, and no businesses out there. So we really just have to put something out there into the world. In fact, this is what startups do. They create a minimal viable product, something that is just good enough to show the world, which they can then refine later. So if there's something that you want to do or start, just get out of your own head and start bringing that idea into the world, and it will take a life of its own. So I've really enjoyed doing this little challenge for myself, and even though none of these eyes look amazing or perfect, I'm really happy that my sketchbook finally looks like a sketchbook, a place for play. This challenge has allowed me to stop complicating things, and it's pushed me towards action. And I really think action is how we can get outside of our heads and just live in the present moment more and grow. So I'll see you guys in the next one.